and welcome back to another episode of FTC Feature, the podcast, where we talk about anything and everything FTC. I'm your host, Louisa, and I'm also joined by our co-host, Katie.
Hi, guys.
And on today's episode, we'll be meeting with the two coaches of Rice Middle School's FTC teams. So without further ado, let's welcome our wonderful guests, Mr. Anaya, also known as Anaya later, and Mrs. York.
Hi, I'm Mrs. York. This is my first year on the FTC team. I am an 8th grade science teacher here at Rice Middle School, and I love everything there is about science. However, I don't really know a whole lot about the engineering side, and so I really wanted to join Mr. Anaya this year and really kind of getting into the engineering side and learning what that is all about. So thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, it's the Annihilator, and this is actually my 5th year with First. I've coached FLL for several years, and I was excited to get the opportunity to coach FTC and figure out what this aspect of the experience is about. But I've been here in Plano for 9 years, teaching 8th grade science for all of that, and this will be my first year doing computer science, engineering, and the technology courses. So felt like a natural progression and able to apply my skills because my original background is in computer science and engineering. So it feels good to be back to kind of tinkering and playing and learning new things.
Awesome. All right. When you found out you were going to be the coaches of Rice Middle School's FTC team, what was your initial reaction? Like, did you feel nervous at all, especially being introduced to something you've never tried before? Or were you really confident and determined?
So, like I said before, I have no experience at all whatsoever in circuits, engineering, any kind of thing that has to do with moving parts and stuff like that. So I was definitely intimidated, especially knowing how much that the team had accomplished in the previous years before. And so it was definitely very intimidating. I've always kind of enjoyed technology and putting stuff together. I used to take, I remember taking my dolls and stuff like that apart and trying to see how they would work. And so there's always been a fascination with that side. However, I just never really had proper training. So I was excited and nervous kind of all at the same time.
Same for me. Coming into FTC coaching, I knew there was going to be a huge learning curve. Similar to when I was jumped into First Lego League, just figuring all the rules of the game, what materials we can use, what opportunities there are. And I knew a big part of FTC is the outreach piece, which we didn't have to do necessarily in FLL. It was simple as writing a few grants and being supported by just local community. And FTC has that component of it, but definitely the outreach part, because I knew last year's team, especially when they went to state, that was a big part of why they were so successful. So I knew I had big shoes to fill coming in and helping them kind of achieve some of that similar success. But I won't lie, I have been kind of riding on their expertise and what they bring to the team already. So I will compliment my fellow coach and the skills and expertise she brings, but the former members of FTC teams that have returned this year really are shouldering a big part of the burden and really helping me learn a lot this year.
Since neither of you are very familiar with FTC, what role do you actually play when it comes to working with the team? In other words, what do you do during practices?
So I'm still kind of figuring out my role. I think that after we had our first actual challenge this past weekend, I really was able to see, okay, so this is what it's all about. And so now I'm kind of in my mind, I'm a very great at organizing stuff. And so I feel like I'm going to be the organizer eventually once I can figure out what all of those little components and pieces are. I also feel like I have the teacher voice, so I'm able to kind of grab the attention of the students. And really, I'm just here to support and learn as much as I can. So I kind of feel that's kind of where my role is right now.
The other day I was joking that a big part of my role here is kind of the glorified accountant for the FTC team. Big part of the learning curve this year was figuring out how can we purchase things, because I know that's a big aspect of being able to buy the parts we need, the tools, especially with new products being released and things to test out and try out. So besides, kind of helping the team order things and keeping us, on the correct policies and make sure everything goes well with that, I also see myself as kind of a setting the expectations, norms, things we want to try to achieve. I always tease the team because I know we have a big part of it is making sure we're organized. So I always team them saying, let's make sure we can organize this stuff because they reside in my classroom, and I like to say that this is my home away from home. So making sure we organize, keep it clean, keep things where they belong so that we can be efficient with our time. We are somewhat limited on our time with other obligations that both myself and Miss York have outside of school. So when we have our FTC time, we want it to be as effective and efficient as it can be. So helping us stay organized, efficient, and aligned with the policies and procedures of the district to make sure we have a successful team, I would say that's where I kind of step in.
Yeah, awesome. So diving a little bit deeper into what happened, what are your thoughts and opinions on the first qualifier we attended on Saturday?
For me, that was the first time I've ever seen anything like that. Obviously I've been to science fair as a science fair teacher for the last 7 years, so I kind of know what that competition piece is like. But to actually see the robots moving and doing all of these different little tasks, and how you have another team that's your alliance and you're working together to get those points and kind of go against the other two teams that are working as an alliance together. Those little things were very new to me, but as you know, as each, I guess, what would you call those stages, challenges, went on, I kind of started to pick up and get the hang of it. So it wasn't as intimidating, but I was definitely just observing everyone and what the other coaches were doing. I really, really, I really felt that it was pretty cool how the kids were helping each other. At science fair, we typically see a lot more. Not that you weren't competitive, but there's not really as much team. What's the word I'm looking for? Camaraderie with other teams because you're going against them. But the fact that everybody was helping each other was really neat to see that. And yeah, I had a really good time. I enjoyed it.
From my perspective, definitely even seeing like FLL competitions, it was a whole nother game, so everything from what the matches are like, the whole alliance aspect. I was there to just learn and observe as much as I could. Because, with my coaching role, I don't feel like I've been able to do as much of coaching the expertise piece because I have a huge learning curve myself. But after this year, I'll feel a little bit more comfortable in being able to kind of coach members on, maybe we should try this strategy or maybe you should look into this setup or this build. I'm having a lot more confidence with that piece. But I will say I was incredibly impressed with both of our teams, especially considering we're going to the competition as a middle school with 7th and 8th graders. Meanwhile, we're competing against teams that are composed of high schoolers. So the fact that we're able to hold our own and one of our teams even placed overall 7th place shows a lot to the maturity and how well these team members are working with the limited time they have. So definitely very impressed. But I will say that it was a great experience witnessing the gracious professionalism of all the teams and how they work together. One of our teams had their robot that wasn't working at all at certain points, and several teams stepped in and offered parts, and they offered to help make the connection and build and troubleshoot things that my team members weren't necessarily able to solve at that time, but they were able to come through and at least get their robot on the field and participate in the game. So that was definitely awesome to see. It was first in its true embodiment of what its mission and goal is. So I was incredibly impressed overall.
Is there any advice you would like to give out to any other rookie team coaches that are also in the same position as you?
I would say definitely get a hold of some of the footage because I know a lot of the games are being streamed online, or there's definitely the North Texas FTC groups and the different clinics that are being offered virtually, or anything you can go to in person. Those would all be beneficial to attend or at least view online. With everything being online nowadays, it's all beneficial.
Yeah, I would say the same. Watching the YouTube videos of how they do their challenges,
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. And if you want to contact us, make sure to check the description box below and subscribe to our social media accounts. Bye!
Bye.
Bye.
Bye!